Jackham.
What's cooking, Gumbo Nation? You're listening to Mortgage Gumbo with Dwayne Stein right here on iHeartRadio, and I'm your host, Dwayne Stein, the Gulf South Mortgage Authority. And this is your home show where for 9+ years, we've been providing education and option on what is or will be your largest investment and your most valuable asset, your home. Hey, if you're new to the Gumbo Nation, welcome. Come on in. It's warm. Unlike the weather, that's a little chilly. And some rain we're expecting later on. On the show today, the Fed had their meeting this week. And I'll tell you why. There used to be a song, If Loving You Is Right, I Don't Want to Be Wrong. I hate it. I'm not an I told you so guy, but we'll talk about the Fed meeting, what that means. Home values. Now we got a whole year of data to look at. Where are they going? Got an entire year to look at. And then jobs report. We got September's jobs. I'm going to break that down. I mean, it's ludicrous, BS, baloney, all these type of things. But this is why you also listen to the show, because we'll break that down. And then, yes, it's February. So what does that mean? Yeah, it probably means Mardi Gras is closed and all that, but it's Credit Awareness Month. I love the month of February because we start getting you ready for that spring buying season. And this entire month is education, education, and education. And today, this week, we're going to break down how is your credit scored. How is your credit scored? So get a pen, paper, make sure you get that ready because we are going to go into absolute detail. So if you want to join the show, 504-260-0995, or you can shoot an email to info@mortgagegumbo.com. So look, supposed to be riding this afternoon. Super excited. Got delayed, Mad Hatter. So we'll be going tomorrow following Atlas. Same route it looks like. So for those hanging out on social media, you can see I'm rocking the costume. Got that going. But Float 16, neutral ground side. I'll be the last rider, second to last rider there on the neutral ground side. Hit me with a mortgage gumbo. Hit me with a dad cam. And got some throws out there, some special stuff that hold back for my listeners. So excited to be able to do that. So with that being said, let's sort of get into this week. And the Fed spoke this week, and this was the first meeting of 2024, obviously the January meeting. The next one will be in March. And listen, we've been telling you, and this isn't news to you because you're a listener of the show, but what we had was with the Fed, what we now had was we knew they were not going to cut rates. I think the Fed in December, and look, we benefited from it. They got a little aggressive saying we like where we're at. We could see cutting. Well, all of a sudden the stock market started thinking 7 rate cuts, all that kind of fun stuff in 2024. And what did I say? I said temper it. The data does not show that. That is not what I'm seeing in the data. And at the end of the day, that's what's important. And, you know, as the Fed, Jerome Powell, and all the Fed presidents, you know, we're going to see rate cuts this year. And if you follow the Rue newsletter and you're part of the 15,000 people who get that weekly, if not, go to mortgagegumbo.com and click on the newsletter and sign up for that. It's no propaganda. I've been saying, listen, I'm doubling down on not in January, but probably not in March either. It's just the data doesn't dictate that, right? I know it's an election year, and I know it's easy to go, hey, they're going to start giving everything away. And I'm not saying that they are not, but just not yet, right? Because it's not time to be political just yet. And Powell, they got it wrong, right? Inflation wasn't transitory. But what they're trying to do now is this soft landing you're hearing about, or no inflation or anything like that. So basically, what we've got now is, and this is a quote, based on the meeting today, which was Wednesday, I would tell you that I do not think it is likely for the committee will reach a level of confidence to lower its rates by any time or the March meeting. We'll continue to review data, blah, blah, blah. They're not just going to come out next month unless things are just absolutely horrendous and drop rates. So what that's telling you is we're going to continue to see things sort of where they are right now. And based on just all these other factors. So what are they looking at? Well, they're looking at unemployment numbers. They're looking at wage growth. We kind of talked about last week how, personal savings rates are at all-time lows. Spending's up. So it's just, I don't know what they're looking for in particular, but I guess my question is, as a consumer, how do you feel? I mean, are you running on fumes? Kind of feels that way sometimes, right? So, but when it comes to the Fed, look, they stand pat. They want to continue to see some firming up before they start making policy adjustments. And so what that means is your short-term stuff, your credit cards, student loans, for those who are paying, all that, you're not going to be seeing those rates going down anytime soon. So we'll continue again to advise you, to keep you up to date, to keep you monitored on everything that is going on. I just want to make sure that you understand we didn't get the rate cut, and I can't see it for March. Now, that does not mean that we will not see some mortgage rates going down. Because as you check the treasuries and the bonds, they're about 100 basis points off. And I don't know if you follow, every Wednesday we do the Hump Day Holler, and this week we did it on Thursday because we knew the Fed was speaking. And my buddy on there, Andrew, it's called Mortgage DNA. My buddy Andrew kind of put it perfectly with mortgage rates. And, it was a elevator in regards to raising the rates, and it's taking the stairs when it comes to lowering the rates, right? So they were quick to jam them up, right? Taking that elevator up to the top floor, but now you got to take the steps down. So those are the things. That's the data. That is everything that we're looking at there. So continue to stand pat. Again, there was no surprises there. It's just, as we've been saying on Mortgage Gumbo, and look, I'd love to come on here and be wrong and go, hey, I was so wrong. Mortgage rates are now, in the mid-5s or the lower 6s or something like that, but it's just, it's the data, and it does not work out to that. So just wanted to make sure covered that. Last week I explained to you, people were asking about the median home price, right? What is the median home price? And somebody was saying how, hey, Dwayne, median home price was down 14% year over year. So you're wrong. Home prices aren't going up, and I'm right because I waited. And I explained, median home price is the average of what people are paying. So when it's down, that means people are buying cheaper houses. And how could you not, Gumbo Nation? How could you not be buying cheaper houses when interest rates are elevated? It makes sense, right? Because your buying power is challenged. We talked about over the last month how everybody that's listening, your buying power has gone up $25,000, $30,000 from the rates falling 1%. You're able to buy more house. So naturally that was challenged. But now we're starting the data for the year over year, and it's starting to come in, the full year's data. So Case-Shiller, appreciation, according to their numbers for 2023, keep in mind, this was for all those who are sitting on the sideline thinking, oh, I'm not going to buy. I didn't want to buy with these higher rates. What did we keep telling you, Gumbo Nation? For those that are buying, we understand that you are being brave. We understand. And guess what? Here's proof of why you taking a risk is paying off. Case-Shiller, 6% appreciation. That's a 6% return on your home. That's amazing. FHFA, 7%. CoreLogic, 7%. Black Knight, 7%. Freddie, 7%. All five of these outlets, all five of these. So you're looking at 7% is where we're probably going to end up, right? All five of these have been new highs every month since July. That's crazy. That's crazy, right? And look, I'm a homeowner, and I'm like, my gosh, how can they keep going up? Well, with lack of inventory, and look what happens. Home values will continue to rise, and they're only going to go one direction, Gumbo Nation, when these rates come down. Only one direction. So wanting you to keep that in mind, understanding that, keeping that as we move forward, kudos. Give yourselves a round of applause for those who bought last year, because you just got, at minimum, a 7% return on your market, on your home. Now, some may be even more. Some a little bit less, but at average 7%, that is amazing. And keep in mind, real estate is local, right, Gumbo Nation? That means look outside your window, and that's what's going on. All right, on the other side of the break, jobs report. BLS, remove the L. The BS jobs report came out. It's just crazy. That Rate Watch, and our main topic today is Credit Awareness Month. You're listening to Mortgage Gumbo with Dwayne Stein right here on iHeartRadio, 504-260-0995. Yes, indeed. What is happening? Love it. We rocking and rolling. Look at that. That's the Mad Hatter's float for those hanging out on social media. How cool is that? That's our Mad Hatter's float, Alice in Wonderland, the rabbit, whatever it is. I'm rocking my costume. All right. BLS, Bureau of Labor and Statistics. I want to change that to BS. We all know what that stands for. Except my mom, it's Barbara Stein. Amazingly. What a January report came out. And it's just baffling to me. And this is the reason why, Gumbo Nation, you listen. Okay? I hear you loud and clear. Right? I know exactly why you listen, and this is why. Because, number one, all the keeping it real and all that, yeah, that's fine. But we're more than just reading headlines. We want to break things down. I guess the word, we get macro, right? We get very, very macro on this show. Macro is less than micro, right, Dave? Shouldn't put you on the spot there. So we're very, very macro. And that's why I want to kind of get in. So the estimate for new jobs in January was 180,000. Whoa! Lo and behold, in January, while if you're watching the news, you see Google, UPS, tens of thousands of jobs, people are losing. Well, guess what, folks? That fuzzy math and that magic wand that the Fed spins and waves, like my scepter I'm using right here, my Mad Hatter scepter, 353,000. 353,000 versus 180. Well, you know what that did to the market yesterday? It destroyed it. And we'll get into rate watch in a little bit, but we were making some gains. And it brought it back to where we've been. So again, that's what we're talking about, right? You know, Dave kind of knocked it out last week. The Ladybug roller coaster, the Ladybug ride at Audubon Park. You know, it's taking the stairs down. It's going to take you a little bit longer. But 353 versus 180,000. And I challenge this because on the same report, the non-form, I know I talk a little bit funny, non-form, meaning people not plowing the fields. That month-over-month change, and this is what they put in the report, was a loss of $2.635 million. So all they did was they said that there was gains instead of saying there was a loss of $2.3 million. They went fuzzy math here. Because how could you have gains when you lost $2.63 million? December and January every single year is where the most unemployment happens, right? December, businesses can't do it. We want to get lean. January, hey, let's see where we're going to go. Let's see what the first quarter looks like. So when you take out the non-seasonal of the non-farm payroll, which means your non-seasonal, those people that were dressed up as Santa Claus, Christmas hires, Thanksgiving hires, we lost 2.6 million jobs. Yet this report shows a gain, and you know what's going to happen. They came out and revised and said, hey, we got to revise December, or November was up 9,000. It's still down over 30,000 from what you originally projected. So it's always the fuzzy math. It's a moving target that is just, it's horrible. And it's BS. And it's what we have to deal with. And that's what we told you. The pain is like the market, right? The Fed, for Powell, he wants to see, all right, things have got to be slowing down. Well, folks, how in the world can they cut rates if you got job gains? This is why for those who have lost their job, you're sitting here in pain. But how can the Fed sit here and cut rates when you're coming in at 353,000 versus 180? When your hourly earnings, they're saying, went up 0.5%. So these are the things on why we come on here, and you can hear me. I get a little worked up because it's such a crock of BS, and it's frustrating. Because if everybody just played by the right freaking rules, we'd be moving forward. We'd be moving forward. And I'm not even talking about Gumbo Nation from a home process, from a doing loans process. I'm talking about just in general. Those minimum payments on credit cards, those minimum payments on student loans. All those things, we'd be seeing a little bit of relief. So this is why, again, we saw the elevator. Everything was sort of manipulated to look good when they were justifying that inflation wasn't transitory. And they hammered us in an 18-month period. They raised the federal funds rate over 5.5%. Well, now they're going to take the steps. They're taking the steps down to go, all right, let's see kind of, sort of, where do we go? And those are the things that, hey, keep an eye on this. We'll continue to share this with you. But this is the political part of what we do here, right? And this is what we have to try and overcome. And that's why these jobs reports are bananas. But that's why I also want to make sure, hey, we're not keeping you from purchasing. That's why I'm sharing with you a 7% appreciation. They're expecting it to be higher this year. And it will be, because I can tell you now, Gumbo Nation, and we'll get the rate watch in a second, activity is picking up. Activity is picking up. And I think it's the old FOMO, fear of missing out. Enough of you are hearing this. Enough of you are relating to your kids, your grandkids. Listen, go buy the house. Maybe marry the house, date the rate. Maybe this dude's onto something over there. You don't have to put down 20%. You don't have to do all these crazy things. and then start seeing what those opportunities are. And look, lenders are falling left and right. We're not going anywhere, but lenders are falling left and right. And now more than ever, Gumbo Nation, for you that are listening, you owe it to your family member to tell them to go check out MortgageGumbo.com, to go check out SnapSendAndSave.com. Closed on a client this week, awesome young couple. They had 3% on their current mortgage. We were able to have them keep that. Now they're going to use it as an investment property and move into a new home. The other lender they were working with was telling them they needed 20%. We said, no, you don't, because they didn't know how to do the math. They didn't know how to make certain things disappear or to budget. And this is a young up-and-coming couple. And you know what? It was a Gumbo Nation dad that listened to the show who called me, who was calling to borrow money to help them out because he saw a great opportunity for a house. They've got a young child. And you know what we did? We saved them $33,000. 10%. You deserve that. Your family deserves that. These are challenge times still. So don't pay any more than you have to. Let's get you in that house as cheap as possible. Let's get into our weekly segment we like to call Rate Watch. Folks, rates were looking good. I'm not going to lie. Look, yesterday, this jobs report, and they'll come back down a little bit. But what did we tell you? All those adjustments, right? Last year with these jobs reports, they predicted when they made the adjustments, 750,000 more jobs they saying we had than we really had after the adjustments year over year. But the rates yesterday went up 25 basis, a 0.25% yesterday alone. Now, Mortgage Gumbo, my people I was able to get who were in a position, we locked in ahead of that because we just knew. We knew with all the data and the feds going, hey, we're staying course, like something's got, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? You know, sometimes things are too good to be true. That was the situation here. So 30-year conventional last week, 6.90, still at 6.92. Look, that's where it was 2 weeks ago. So it's been in the same place for 3 weeks. 15-year, 6.25. That's down a little bit from the 6.31 last week. FHA, last week, 6.20s at 6.18. So flat there. Jumbo, last week, 7.26. This week, 7.28, flat. VA, last week, 6.25. This week, 6.22. And the 5-1 ARM, last week, 6.32 is up to 6.45. Adjustable rate mortgages need to be absolutely removed from your vocabulary. But folks, find out, what do you qualify for? Go to SnapSendAndSave.com. There's no cost. There's no obligations. All we do is give you the answers to let you know is purchasing right. What's my buying power? Should I refinance based on the added debt that I've picked up over the last 18 months? Who in their right mind, Gumbo Nation, who could budget for what's happened over the last 18 months? Nobody. And that's why we're seeing the challenges. And that's why, like I said, this inflation's a little bit more painful than what we thought. On the other side of the break, it's almost my favorite time of year because it's education, education, education. It's Credit Awareness Month. How is your credit scored? That's what we're going to spend the second half of this show letting you know all about. If you want to join the show, hit it up, 504-260-0995. The home away from the show is MortgageGumbo.com. You're listening to Mortgage Gumbo on iHeartRadio. Yes, welcome back, Mortgage Gumbo with Dwayne Stein. All right, let's get into, this is a great topic. I love this topic. You beg for this topic every year. And if you're new to the show, every February is Credit Awareness Month. Okay, we talk about credit on the show. We break everything down. Over the course of this month, we're going to tell you how credit's scored. We're going to give you tips and tricks. We're going to answer any of your questions. We're going to debunk credit myths. So when you come out of this month, there's going to be no reason why your credit shouldn't be on the way up. And we do it in February because, hey, if you're getting ready normally for that spring buying season, we want you to be ready to rock and roll. And one of the things, listen, credit over at Mortgage Gumbo, I've been doing this for 30 years. It does not intimidate us like it does certain people. It doesn't. So let's sort of get into, I want you, if you're driving, but, you know, if you've got a pen and paper, or heck, you know what, just go back, sign up, go to Mortgage Gumbo on YouTube, become a subscriber there, and you can watch this and kind of go over. We even have a library for credit, all that kind of stuff. So let's kind of start off with what is credit. And in my definition for credit is it's a reflection of good and bad decisions you've made. Right? It is really just, did you make good decisions or bad decisions? Because your credit score is going to help you determine that. And what I mean by that is, hey, are you one of those that says, I'll show you, cell phone company, I just won't pay you. I'll go over to the other carrier. Right? Is that kind of your mentality? Has that been your mentality? So those are the things there that credit will come back on you. Listen, it's right up there with air and water. Credit determines your insurance, your mortgage rates, your auto rates, everything. So it's right up there with air and water. And today, you're going to sort of get to look into my crystal ball. What I've been doing to help clients where everybody else says no, and we're able to say yes and point folks in the right direction. Today, you're going to be able to kind of see into my crystal ball on credit scoring. Okay? And as we begin to break that down, I want to make sure, listen, and it's crazy because the show now has been 9+ years, and people ask all the time, well, they'll call and go, well, my credit monitoring, I work with this company or that company, and they're saying my credit score is this. Listen, everybody out there, I think everybody out there should be doing credit monitoring. Everybody. And what's crazy is I saw a stat where 32% of folks have never obtained a free credit report. 44% of age-worthy adults, meaning people who have credit, haven't checked it in over a year. That's crazy. So credit monitoring, let me say something. It's a great thing. But see, what's happening is it's become a business now. And it used to be credit monitoring. Now they got into the business of, hey, we can do credit repair. But all these companies want to do is get your information and then they go sell it. That's why across country and at Mortgage Gumbo, folks, we do the soft pull. We're not selling your information. We value it. We value that. So when you're getting those reports from all those companies that you get them from and those free reports, keep in mind, those are for reporting purposes, not lending. Now, sometimes it may be right in line, but a lot of times it's maybe 20, 30, 40. I've seen it 100 points higher than what it is because those bureaus, again, they're for reporting. They're not monitoring up-to-date data. They're getting whatever it has. It's free, folks. So everything's not verified. The data's not always up to date. Because I'll get these reports over. Part of Snap, Send, and Save is, when we're looking at it and we're wanting to look at for a purchase, I tell you, hey, send me over your most recent credit score, and we look at it, and a lot of times you will see maybe some of these credit bureaus, maybe they might not have reported for the last 2-3 months, some of these creditors. So just keep that in mind. We support, we believe in credit monitoring, but it needs to be more on the case of making sure that your identity is not being stolen. Nobody's stealing your stuff, not the business that they've turned it into. Okay? So, draw that circle, and I want you to think of a big piece of pie, because that's what we're about to do. We're going to start breaking things into a big piece of pie. So I want you to draw a line from 12 o'clock to 20 after the hour, right? That's a big slab of pie. And in that, I want you to write payment history. And then underneath that, I want you to write down 35%. The biggest part of your credit score comes from this section right here. And that's payment history. And sounds common, right? Okay, well, duh. Well, the reason it's the most important is it tells us, how are you doing? Do you pay back your bills? And if you do, how well do you do that? Do you have 30-day lates, 60-day lates, 90-day lates? Or are they rolling 30s, 60s, and 90s? Oh, Dwayne, what's a rolling 30, 60, or 90? Great question, Gumbo Nation. A rolling 30, 60, or 90, for instance, a rolling 30 would be if you fell past due and you're 30 days past due, then you made a payment, you're still 30 days past due, and you're making payments every month, but you don't get caught up. Same thing if you're 2 months past due is a 60, 3 months is 90, and so on. So I know it sounds very basic, your payment history, but there's a reason why it's 35%. And what else goes into that? Well, do you have those judgments, collections, those I'll show you cell phone company things that you haven't paid? What about liens, foreclosures, bankruptcies? Is it a Chapter 7? Is it a Chapter 13? Those are all things that go into this 35% payment history. So it's very important. Now, we can't put poop back in the bag, right? And one of the things I tell clients all the time where my competition gets it wrong is paying off things that are already past due. Let those sleeping dogs lie. Meaning if you've got something and you haven't paid in a year, 2 years plus, chances are we're going to leave that alone. And I see people all the time, they'll use their money that they were planning on being able to buy a house, some down payment or closing costs, and it goes to go pay something that they didn't need to pay. So once you get with your lender and you've started that process, especially with us, get with me on everything. I work for you. It's your job to get answers from me. I work for you. So we need to let some of those sleeping dogs lie, some of those delinquencies. And listen, I believe you, Gumbo Nation. Here's a crazy stat. 1 out of every 4, 25%. 25% of us, guess what, have an error on their credit report. So sometimes, guess what, when you go, oh, I don't know what that is, that's not me. Oh, that ain't me, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, okay. 1 out of every 4 of you are correct. That's crazy. So now you know why these free credit reports, the scores aren't as high as when you pull the real ones, right? Because 1 out of every 4 have an error. So I'm with you there. So again, when we're looking at this big piece of pie, keep in mind 35% of that is payment history. On the other side of the break, we're going to get into the rest of this credit. We're teaching you how is your credit scored so you have no reason not to thrive, not to maximize your opportunities. So when you're coming to me and you're working with me and we're working together, man, we're getting that credit score up to where you could get the best program out there to put down the least amount of money to get that cheapest interest rate. You're listening to Mortgage Gumbo with Dwayne Stein right here on iHeartRadio. 504-260-0995. Yes, indeed. It's Mardi Gras season. All right, it's Credit Awareness Month, and we're talking about how is your credit scored. In the last block we went over, we told you draw a circle, and we're going to cut up like a piece of pie. And we told you, go from the top of the clock, noon, draw a line to the middle of your circle, then go down to the 20-minute mark. That's payment history's 35%. Now let's cover the rest of that piece of pie. Getting hungry. Now I want you to take that line from 20 after to 20 till. So from the 20 to the 40 on your clock. And I want you to write down amount owed. And then write 30%. This is the second largest piece of your credit. And let's break down what amount owes. In retrospect, this is your credit utilization, is what we call it when we're reviewing this. And it's basically just straight up a picture of how well do you manage your money? How well are you getting things managed? I can tell from somebody's credit bureau, hey, they get something, they pay it off every month. Hey, I can tell if somebody, where are you at when you're looking at your credit utilization? Where is your credit limit in comparison to how much you owe, your credit balance? Meaning if you've got a credit card and your credit limit is $1,000 and you owe $900, you're at 90% credit utilization. That is going to hurt your credit score. It's not going to allow you to maximize it. If you're paying on time, it's not going to hurt it. It's not going to maximize. And what do we want to do? We want to get the best score out there. So optimally, when you're looking at amount owed and your credit utilization, you want to be under, if you want to make a little side note here, you want to be at 30% or less. So that same credit card with a $1,000 credit limit, if you're at $300 or less, you're maxing out the possible credit score that you could get, assuming you're paying on time, for that particular credit card. Let's say you can't get from 90 to 30. Then, folks, let's work in 10% increments. And we're going to talk about that more in the upcoming weeks when we start talking about tips and tricks. I'm going to teach you exactly how to win in some of these areas there. But that's what they want to see. How are you managing your money? If I'm going to give you a mortgage, a car, a loan, how are you managing your money? Are you robbing Peter to pay Paul? Or are you doing what's called pyramiding? And this is what I'm seeing a lot on people who are coming to me right now. In pyramiding, meaning, man, I'm using my Discover to pay my Visa to pay my American Express, my American Express to pay my MasterCard. And you're pyramiding. Think of a pyramid. It starts wide and goes to a point. Well, when you get to the top, what happens? You got nowhere to go. So that's what we're looking at in amount owed. All right, now we're going to go from the 40 on the clock, we're going to go up to the 50. And this is, you're going to write down length of credit history. And then write 15%. So we've got payment history is 35, amount owed, credit utilization is 30. Now length of credit history, 15%. Okay, this is how long have you had credit established. If you're 20 years old, 21 years old, well, your length of credit history is going to be different than mine, who's had credit for 25 plus years. So that college student with new credit cards versus, say, your mom and dad. So you can't create credit history on your own. Now, again, when we get into our tips and tricks, this is where I operate all the time and increase people's scores 40, 50, 100 points sometimes. So you may not have that credit history, but guess what? You may know somebody that does, so we'll explain that on that show. Right now it's about credit scoring and how it's broken down. Okay? Now you're going to go from 50 to 55. You're going to write down new credit. And this is 10%. Okay? This is what we're looking at here is this is inquiries. All like Christmas. Did you go to the store and they go, hey, you'll get 10% off? Did you open up a bunch of new credit cards?
2 minutes.
Did you go get a new car? So that's new credit. This is inquiries. That's 10%. And then we finish it off from 55 to the top of the hour. You're going to write down types of credit. And then that's another 10% to fill out our 100%. This is secured versus unsecured. What type of credit do you have? Do you have a bunch of installment debt? Do you have all credit cards, meaning revolving debt? This is where, again, when we get into tips and tricks in the upcoming weeks, we're going to explain to you how we win in this area and why so many times people are like, oh, I'll go get a secured card. No. But this is the type of credit. So secured versus unsecured.
1 minute.
So, folks, by listening to this and understanding and kind of looking at this as a pie chart, I don't want it to be as intimidating, but you could kind of see how the score that you get comes about. Instead of scratching your head going, oh, how's my credit score this? Okay? So stick around, follow us, go to YouTube, go to Facebook, type in Mortgage Gumbo, follow, subscribe, whatever it is, we're going to be educating you. Go out, tell one person this week about MortgageGumbo.com. We'll see you on the parade route tomorrow. And until next week, Gumbo Nation, keep stirring the pot.